That's better. I can see chat now.
The Scottish Fishermen's Federation, called the UK Youth Trading on Fishing, desperately fought as if we were in a worse situation than before. If Brexit's been put to bed, Robert, it's got out of bed, it's running around, it's not the bed at all. You need to put Brexit back.
Brexit, the gift that keeps giving, it will never die. Iron out.
In fairness to John, it will require diplomacy and good relations with others. We all want to see that. We want to move forward. These are our European friends and neighbours and trading partners. We want to build the best possible relationship. But it is a
Hey, Anthony.
hearing that from people who first of all like John, like
They're still talking about fishing rights.
such a divisive response.
I don't know how much longer they can drag this out.
Dozens and dozens of times. John obviously sat in the chair, using every device and opportunity he could to make it.
It's called standing up for the rights of the democratic legislature, Robert. I'll introduce you to the concept, and a tutorial on the subject will be of great advantage for members of Her Majesty's government.
Oh, it's getting feisty now.
People are shaking their heads. And Amanda, you're laughing, I can see. Right, okay. We could talk about this for some time. I'm going to move on, because there's other questions I want to get in. We're going to hear now from Liz.
Would a Labour defeat in Hartlepool and elsewhere in the red wall areas mean curtains for Keir?
Curtains for Keir.
No. I mean, first of all, we're going to talk about curtains. I did find it quite extraordinary.
That rhymes. Oh, here we go. She's taking that chance to get a dig in at Boris's curtains. Nicely done.
It is too early, but nonetheless, it's looking like you've got a real fight on it. And every vote we have fought for, we have
Wait, you asked me to go on the prosecution with you. So I took the challenge.
People have been listening to the party, been willing to talk to us, and what's the answer to this question? It's too many hypotheticals for me to be able to answer. Well, they're not. Well, okay, let's deal with one. Let's take one issue. Would a Labour defeated Hartlepool? With far too early to say. And at the moment, we need to wait and see what the
No problem.
We also need to see what the
I've dived in with both feet, taking a gamble.
We've worked hard, and I think that the behoves us all to continue to listen very carefully to what the voters are saying. Whatever they say, whatever we get to at the end of
Oh,
the day,
for fuck's sake.
I think it's important that people move away from this disaster that
Oh, I'm sure she's faced worse. We'll see. Maybe the Watchers Council will be a picnic compared to that. Yeah, I voted for the Labour guy for like the council vote, and you got 2 votes for like the police one. So I voted Labour number 1 and Lib Dems number 2 for that.
It's traditional voter base. They just don't seem to have made any noise about that. We know that young people and the poorest in society have been absolutely the most affected by lockdown, the most affected by COVID. I don't see Labour making any noise about that at all, doing anything useful in that regard. And I think that's disappointing. I don't know what they stand for. I'd like to see them much stronger with very clear views and clear policies, but I don't know what their policies are anymore.
Oh yeah, because the government have really been speaking up for people like that, haven't they?
Robert and I have this been over the dispatch box. I mean, I think we have stood up for people. For instance, we stood up for people on school meals. We stood up and got a reversal of the decision by the governor. We stood up for people on the evictions ban, which is something that Robert and I have debated. We stood up for people on cladding, which is so important to so many people across the country. We are standing up for people right now when we do not want to see economic deficit that arise if the government chooses to go out and carry on with its decision to cut universal credit by 1 managed to achieve quite a lot of U-turns out of the government. Not enough. I'd still like Robert to go further, particularly for instance on planning. But I still think that it's not fair to say that we haven't stood up for the government. I think Robert would bear testimony to the fact that we disagreed on many. Interesting that you don't say no to this question. Would a Labour defeat mean curtains for here? He's obviously no, either he stays on, but maybe his position is not that secure. No, I mean, I think that Keir's had an absolute mountain to climb over the last year. And it's been a very, very long year. It's been difficult for everybody. It's been a hard year for everybody. And I think that one of the things we've learned in this election.
So I'm watching Question Time, Anthony, and the BBC, in their infinite wisdom, have got a royal wedding special after this. Royal wedding, a day to remember. Screw you, BBC. Screw you. What is this, North Korea or something? Jesus.
And Labour Party is a party that always wants to try. I think we need to convince, especially young voters like myself, that they really are standing up for it. And
What could they say, Ryan, to convince them?
And to be honest, that's what so whether that's part of whether how it counts for and how they have a plan for extra spending, which can really help to alleviate poverty within the UK. Just measures which they can really put in place to safeguard the long-term future of not only myself, but
really like to echo a lot of what Brian said. I'm a Labour member and voter, and I don't feel apathetic in most recent elections. It's hard to go out and vote even because I just didn't know what I was voting for. So I didn't have clear policy and the vision, and then I think make a better future when there.
Tony?
Yes, I'm just wondering if the Conservatives were to gain seats in Hartlepool and in particular in Scotland, would that indicate that the public are more interested in healthcare, education and jobs rather than the rhetoric of Scotland's First Minister and the price of a roll of wallpaper?
Yeah, honestly, I really want to like Keir Starmer, and he's my MP, and I want this vision. I feel really disappointed that his first response to the policing bill.
See, comments like that really disappoint me.
But his first response, we voted against it. Was his first response not, we're going to abstain? No, we voted against it. I'm just trying to have evidence because it definitely said that in the paper. Well, I'm sure that everything in the paper is true though. Well, I mean, he certainly didn't come out with guns blazing. I'm not really hearing from him. There's a clause in the policing bill that says if you are noisy and annoying at a protest, and we voted against it. I'm not feeling the heat. I'm not feeling the rage about that because the definition of a protest is to be noisy and annoying. And I can't afford to be criminalised. I can't afford to go to jail. So voting against it was not enough. No, I feel like he wasn't outraged. He didn't come out and go, this is appalling. He hasn't talked in those. His first response was not to say this cannot stand. All the people going out with Kill the Bill, I don't feel like he's really with us. But I want him to listen, and I feel like maybe
I get what she's saying, but he did vote against it, and I mean,
brushes his hair before he does speeches. That's an appeal. As opposed to
the party in general have been quite strong against it.
This is where we are, Fiona, at the bottom of the barrel, and we're going to start from here and build up. I mean, if you ask me now, would I rather have Keir Starmer be Prime Minister or Boris Johnson? Of course, Keir Starmer, yes, absolutely, please give it to me now. But I would love to see more from him on Black Lives Matter. I'd love to see more from him on really going out and being in opposition. But I do value that he doesn't oppose things that shouldn't be opposed just for the sake of opposing them. I'll come back to you, mate.
Well, look, we don't yet know what the outcome is going to be.
How are you today, anyway, Anthony?
I think it would be pretty extraordinary for an election like Hartlepool even to be close in historical terms, because governments don't usually win seats off the opposition. In fact, it's quite unusual for governments even to hold their own seats in by-elections.
It's only happened twice.
I was elected in a by-election in 2014, and that was the first time in 25 years of a general process. Well, there are many factors, probably not
stuff. Always important to do.
Having been to Hartlepool a couple of times over the course of the last week, I'd say a few things. Firstly, there is a genuine desire for change. And having been represented for 57 years, I think, by a Labour MP, including some very prominent ones like Anderson, I did find people who felt not enough had happened, they hadn't been invested in, valued as much as they should have been, and wanted something different. They did look to people like Ben Houchen, who was the Conservative mayor, who was up for re-election today, and think that they were doing a good job, and that there was investment, there was Freeport.
Yeah, I keep forgetting Manderson was Labour. I could have sworn for the life of me he was Tory, but
the investment in high streets that were doing in that part of the world. So they saw a positive change coming. And I think fundamentally, they didn't feel that the Labour Party today represented them. And that is a real concern, I think, for Starmer and for the Labour Party, because they felt that it was now a party which was solely interested in the most metropolitan parts of the country, didn't speak to mainstream opinion in the rest of the country. And that, I hope, is what we as the Conservatives are offering. I think that is a real challenge for them.
Ariane, you've got your hand up.
I think one of the problems is that there is a lot of infighting in the Labour Party, and I would like to see a party that can give some proper vision, some proper ideas of how we're going to come out of the pandemic, not lots and lots and lots of empty promises to try and buy seats, but to try and make people's lives better. And really, was it sensible to have somebody who was a Remainer to be standing in a by-election from somewhere which was very much keen on leaving the EU? I think that was a big mistake.
Charlie?
I think we underestimate how difficult it has to be for it would be any opposition leader to get themselves heard while we're going through the pandemic and coming out of it. So to judge anyone at this time, and you've got to give them at least a couple of years.
yeah,
Well,
I agree.
Quite straight answers. So let me begin by saying that although we haven't seen the outcome, I am very confident from what I've read that Labour will lose Hartlepool. And yes, that is a shock. It wasn't originally perhaps by commentators to be expected. It isn't really a shock to me. And the reason why it isn't a shock to me is that it is only 17 months ago that the Red Wall seats revolted against Labour and turned to the Conservatives.
And should it, in terms of the question, should the Keir Starmer should go?
No, I don't think it's curtains for Keir, but I think there are two reasons why it's not such a great surprise. The first is that we've had a suspension of normal politics for the 13 months of Keir Starmer's leadership, and indeed a few days before. And in December 2019, people said they wanted to get Brexit done, and the government has delivered on the first phase of Brexit. I happen to think it's the most costly foreign policy blunder of the post-war period. People voted for that to happen, and it has happened. So in a sense, it would be counterintuitive and almost bizarre if voters all of a sudden said, well, we know we wanted that in significant numbers, even in Hartlepool, where Brexit Party is not standing this time. But actually, we're going to punish the government that's delivered what we said we wanted them to deliver. That's the first point. And the second point is, I think you have to allow for the fact, consistent with what I've said about the suspension of normal policy, there is a wave of relief in the country at the arrival and, yes, the effective distribution of the vaccine and the desire to reward the government. Now, the distribution is overwhelmingly about the National Health Service, and the devising of the vaccine is overwhelmingly about the quality of scientists and very little to do with the government. But nevertheless, it's been a success. So in light of those two factors, why should there be a great turnabout in opinion on such a short period? But I won't duck or burp the wider issue here very briefly. And what I would say is this. I think that Keir Starmer is clinical, forensic, sincere, and articulate, very effective in debating about the problem. But he has to be bolder. He has to reach out to and connect with and prove to the country as a whole. I think there is a market for a left of centre party that can show how it will tackle the levelling up agenda, how it will help the left behind, the left out, the left from. And in that sense, it's very different from 1979 or even 2010, when people wanted government state and a Labour
Now,
Party.
you're familiar what it felt like to sit as Speaker of the House of Commons, kind of keep MPs to their time and then allow others to speak. I'm going to do the same. Hugh, I can see you wanted to come back in.
Yes, I think I heard John saying, the curtains for Keir. I hope there'll be John Lewis curtains. But my more serious point is I thought I've heard every type of letter you describe recoveries and recessions, L-shaped, V-shaped, U-shaped. But recently I've been hearing about K-shaped recovery. And what this actually means is that through COVID, through the pandemic and coming out of it, it appears that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer as a huge generalization, but it's very, very true. And what we've seen is that school children, students, young people have been absolutely sort of hammered by school closures, university closures, and so forth. And industries in which young people work, the retail industry, the hospitality industry, have also been absolutely hammered by COVID and by the recession. Who knows how many jobs will be lost in the end? But it's almost exclusively in the younger part of the market, low-paid jobs. And I would just like to see, the opposition. Well, I'd like to see the government do it, but I'd really like to see.
Saturday will be the first Back to the Future stream, by the way. Back to the Future 1.
I would like to see somebody stand up for them, and I think that that's what Labour have failed to do in the face of all the measures introduced by government. At no point have they said we stand for
Saturday about the normal time.
Pandemic, which is what exactly happened. It is more and less privilege, and Labour have done nothing.
It's simply not true. And Megan, you obviously want to respond to you, but what about Bethany and Ryan? Yes. Bethany was a Labour member, I think you said, Bethany. And Ryan, who wants to vote Labour, and they just can't see a way to do it.
No,
and then you've got Deborah here as well.
Yes, and I understand that, and I really hear what Bethany is.
That must be very depressing for you.
Well, I think it's important that all politicians learn to listen to what people are saying to them when they don't agree. And that's part of what I've been doing, part of what Keir's been doing. And I have to say that a lot of the country, in my view, I think the majority of the country actually wanted us to do things in the national interest for the last year and take a constructive opposition approach, which is exactly what Keir's done. He has actually, Hugh, opposed the government many, many times. We have opposed the government on any manner of things, whether it was school exam results, or as I say, it was free school meals and holidays. We have stood up in support of people who have been losing income, particularly, for instance, those in the private rented sector, where I have called time after time for the evictions ban, and I've been very glad to have persuaded Robert that that was the right thing to do. But I think we then have I was in position from April the 5th, Robert, and my predecessor called the thing. Okay, let's not get behind that. The thing is, you can list things, yeah. But when you've got people saying, I don't, you say maybe you never would vote Labour, but I suspect not. But saying, I'm just not. You have in the past. Well, that's good to know. It's just not cutting through to him. And you've got Bethany saying, I want a vision. Ryan saying, I want a vision. Yeah. So you can list these things, but certainly to some people, at any rate, that's just not coming across. I completely get that. Now I know that Keir has a vision for making this country the best country to grow up in, the best country to grow old in. I know that we want to rebuild our economy. I know that we want
What's quite tense.
To grow old and grow up in. I have ideas about how we can do that, for instance, on the housing agenda. And I also know that we've got a great team who cannot wait to be able to cut through more. And I hear what people are saying, that it's not cutting through. I get that. I think that's a lesson for the Labour Party, which we're going to have to take into account. Let's take another question from Andrea McSherry.
Thanks, Julia. Are we moving too slow with reopening hospitality? Should pubs and restaurants be able to fully open now?
Well, obviously, Hugh, I'm going to come to you first on this.
Well, as people know, we've been fighting very hard to try to achieve this, and it was very disappointing that on the day when we received the High Court decision that.
Yeah, I think hospitality has been treated quite bad in all this.
Everyone may not be familiar with the court case, so just in a very briefest outline, just remind everybody what it was you're trying to do.
Apologies. We were seeking a judicial review of the decision to delay the opening of hospitality.
BBC One.
Say, unfortunately, after an unexplained 2-week delay from the court, the judgment was that it was academic because it wouldn't make a difference before the 17th of May. And I can tell you it's absolutely not academic for the 3 very same day after the court.
Well, we're obviously heading in that direction, but I think we've still got a bit to go. But there's just no consistency to the plan, really. You know, because for example, it's easier to social distance in a pub or a cinema than it is to like social distance in a barber or like in a gym. So they haven't really taken that into account.
Open, and it's an immense disappointment for an industry that has spent a huge amount responding to COVID, has lost a huge amount, and we employ 3 million people, mainly under 25, and they need to get back to work, and it's a disgrace. The data and the science have at no point ever supported the government.
Well, I think just the other thing saying.
I think there will be.
Was the data collected by.
It probably won't be as bad as the other two. Well, I mean, the next wave, if we get another wave, probably won't be as bad as the first two. I think there might be another lockdown later in the year.
Andy, you stuck your hand up as soon as you asked the question, and you're supplying food to the hospitality industry, aren't you?
Yeah, sure.
I just don't think there's any rhyme or reason to all this. I mean,
the rules are slightly different in Scotland than they are in England.
They're talking about having 45,000 fans at Wembley for like the Euro semi-final and final, and yet not everyone will be vaccinated by then. They're not talking about, they're saying it won't be July, later in July, till everyone's vaccinated.
And the business owners all across the UK have adapted their businesses to make sure they're safe places to go. They've worked really hard to fit in with the guidelines, you know, and this industry is literally on its knees. Businesses are closing all over the place, and we've got to get it moving as soon as we possibly can.
The next day of opening up in England, the data is looking very favorable. Why can the government not open up soon? Well, you're right that the data that we've seen is very positive. The Prime Minister has said that himself. It looks as if we will be able to move forward to the next stage of the roadmap in May. There's nothing at the moment that would suggest we're not also able to move forward on the 21st of June with the next stage.
But to Hugh's point,
I think it is right to stick to what we've created. Because remember, the idea of our process is that you gather the data, you ensure there is a 5-week break, which gives enough time to have the right information on which to make an informed decision. And then you have some time to give the public and businesses like you the time it takes to prepare to reopen and restart those particular parts of the economy. No one is saying this is easy. None of us would want to have these measures in place for a day longer than is necessary. But I think it is right, having done so much, having had all these difficult decisions and privations, to be cautious at this stage in the process. We are trying to do everything we can to support in England and in the rest of the United Kingdom where we can, the hospitality sector. If you think through what we've done, we've got the business rates holiday that's continuing, we've got the concept of £18,000 that they want to open for businesses. We're providing money to help businesses when they can reopen. We're spending billions of pounds getting high street centres up and running as well. So we're doing everything we possibly can to support those businesses through undoubtedly a very difficult and challenging period. But I think we'll be doing the country a disservice at this stage to rush rather than waiting a little bit longer. And there's nothing that we can see so far to suggest that there is going to be a delay on the next stage of the road. So it's literally a question now of 10 days until most of the aspects of one of the Hugh and others have spoken about this evening will be able to work. So the moment only 40% of hospitality venues are able to open. It certainly
do you support the idea of sticking to May the 17th, or are you swayed by what he was saying, that actually the data could be so favourable now that we should accept it? Well, I think it's an utter tragedy for the hospitality industry and the wider entertainment industry, creative industry, and destinations that we're in the situation that we're in. I wish that the government actually had been driven by data throughout the crisis. If they had, they might have needed their own commission report published last July, warning what might happen in the winter without certain measures taking place. If they'd done them then, maybe that would have made a difference. But given that we are where we are, do you think that we should be open sooner, as Hugh would dearly like to see, and Andrea, or do you think we should be sticking to May the 17th? I don't have access to the same data as the government experts do, but I do think it's important that we are driven by data. I think that would have been better if we'd been driven by data earlier on. I think that would have helped the hospitality industry. But what these people are also talking
I do wish sometimes Fiona Bruce would let people answer questions properly. You know, there's nothing wrong with opening up a bit of a wider point. You don't have to stick, you know, forensically to the exact point that was being made. Some things are more complex than that.
And the individuals, but we have done, I think, as much as any country in the world. I think it's all well with hindsight. We would have done something different.
I mean, tell you anything,
probably the world's most complex of support for people in this situation.
You left out adequate sick pay for people being told to isolate. You left people who can't afford to take time off work when they're being told to isolate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously limit the capacity, because I don't think we're at the stage yet where you can have too many people. But yeah, I agree, open it up with a smaller capacity. People wear face masks and social distance. I think they need to be a bit more flexible.
Irrespective of the emerging data. I think it is a minor but significant scandal that the SAGE report was eked out.
Wow. Rough times, Anthony. Rough times.
I think it should be emphasized.
That serves you right for eating KFC, because it's disgusting.
Sector's got 3 million people working there. It owes £2,000 million in unpaid rent that Americans can't pay, and it's losing £200 million, not a week, not a month, not a year. It's losing £200 million a day. So the proposition that I sit in ministerial offices and reflect on what future might hold.
I think what's interesting is today something popped up on the BBC News website saying something like the economy is expected to grow to its biggest rate in like 70 years. Now, I'm assuming that's because we've had a long spell of things being down, and it's people sort of celebrating their freedoms again. But
the point at which the Prime Minister, Chris Whitty, our expert, review the data in the knowledge of all the facts, make a decision, and then provide sufficient time for the sector.
Well, it was on the BBC website, to be fair, but you know, I think it's probably a bit of a misleading statistic. I think because it probably doesn't take into account the whole sector, the fact that hospitality is taking a big hit because they haven't opened it back up yet, and it's been shut for a long time. A lot of it might just cover things like retail. Well, politics. Hey Becca, how are you? And I tell you what, Becca, if this sounds dull, they were talking about bloody fishing rights earlier. So you dodged a bullet there.
And we can also see that the number of cases has fallen faster than what was assumed, that the number of hospitalizations has fallen faster than what was assumed. So we have enough data quite clearly, and we had it a month ago, to see that the assumptions behind the models were very clearly wrong from the start, from the outset, were based on bad data. And as soon as the real world data started coming in, it proved unequivocally that those assumptions were wrong.
We can talk about anything. You can ask me questions if you want, or just chat about anything. It'll be a short stream than I was thinking, because I sort of expected then they would have like coverage of the local elections, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Yeah, it's good. I'm liking it. It's very character driven, and I'm really liking the characters, and I think just the feel of the small town, I think it's a very realistic depiction of small town and the culture. She has wild glasses.
We're locked in, but at Christmas, we were all out, when we weren't vaccinated, none of us were vaccinated, we were all out eating out to help out. I mean, we were let out at Christmas.
She's nailed a great point there, actually. We were all going out at Christmas. And yeah, that's before we had the vaccine. And now that we've got the vaccine, there's all this caution. Yeah, little bit of Twin Peaks as well, Becca, just in the sense that you've got this small town and everything's sort of connected, the different characters.
But I think the point where we are right now, you're almost making the argument, I think, for the government is that people want certainty, they want roadmap, and that is what the roadmap is providing. We've managed to achieve it so far, thanks to the success of the vaccine. There are 35 million people who have now had their first jab, but there's still 18 million across this country that haven't, and that's going to take some more weeks. So I think we just need to show a degree of patience, be cautious, and let's get through the remaining stages.
Why do you think Australia's had 900 deaths? I mean, that's such a huge disparity. 900, 127,000.
There are many different reasons why countries are differently. Now isn't the right time for us to be making comparisons. They've actually not proven very good comparisons.
I'm actually surprised they're not talking about the potential of Scottish independence. To me, that's one of the hot topics right now in politics. Oh, here we go. The gloves are off.
That's a lot of on an industrial scale. Therefore, I can well understand why you are fighting shy of a full public inquiry. A full public
No, it's a perfectly good point, Becca. I mean, there's been peace in Northern Ireland for years, and that potentially has been undermined now.
We haven't got much time left. I want to get one more question in. Quite a few people want to speak about Charlie.
Hi. Just briefly, do you think that the pitch invasions by the fans at Manchester United will contribute to a change of power towards fans, or will they ultimately be ignored?
Well, look, the government acted very swiftly when the fans came forward by the bosses and the owners of the European Super League. I think that was absolutely right. It goes against all the spirit of the game. It would have destroyed it.
And so should fans have more power?
I think fans absolutely should do. We're doing a review led by Tracy Crouch, who go on and hang out with others, will know is one of the most independent men finding members of Parliament. I hope she comes forward with some very serious proposals. I'm sure she will do. She's been thinking about this for a long time, and I've got confidence that will take forward those proposals. We do need now, I think.
They're talking about the football issue and the pitch invasions now. I think the government are getting a bit of an easy ride tonight on this. She's okay, a few issues. Her shoulder's quite bad at the moment, so she's going to look into acupuncture. Believe me, I have no idea what I've gotten into, Becca.
I'm very glad that the government has finally needed to call my colleague Rebecca Al-Khan, who she was Shadow Minister for some time ago, actually called for a fan-led review. We have been calling for many a long year for fans to be in charge of what happens in their clubs, as they are in other countries. I think we need to see this actually follow through now, not to simply convene fan by fan. Got to be followed. You?
Well, I'm not an expert at football, but for some years,
Saturday. About 10:30, 10:40, 10:45, something normal time. And it'll be over the 3 nights, so 1 Back to the Future film per night.
It's never going to happen. There's too much money in football. The people who own the clubs, they've got so much money. The people who sponsor it have so much money. If Manpower really wants, these big boys need to go out and play in their Super League in Europe. And FC United, Manchester, teams like that need to be recreated, where fans can really have an association with the players who play. Because as it stands now, not a chance. Too much money.
Yeah, I agree. Too much money involved.
surely, and wouldn't it be great if people were as engaged or more engaged about those things, because it clearly works. The European Super League died a death as far as I can make out on Twitter because the people didn't want it. What else could we ask for if we went to this government and said, we're not having it? Becky?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's an interesting point for the Tory minister to make, in that there needs to be a shift in power. And yet there's so many other examples where there doesn't need to be a shift in power. So I just wonder how you feel that is possible when the rights of people to be able to protest is being attacked.
John, I need to let you answer this question. I mean, is there any way you think that the German could be seen here where the fans are on the majority share?
Yes, it could be, and I'm glad you're familiar with the German model. Yeah, I think it's a commendable one, and I look forward with interest and anticipation to what Tracy Crouch in her review finds. I agree with Robert. I think she's a very serious-minded and independent focused person, and she'll come up with what she thinks is best. Frankly,
Not that many. I've had the same few for a while, but I will get some more at some point. I did find it pretty funny that there was one of Bob from Twin Peaks, who's one of the most scariest characters ever.
Let's not forget
yes, that's an sore point as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, because I speak as an Arsenal season ticket holder. I was interviewed on Arsenal TV a fortnight ago at the Emirates, and my particular bugbear is that if you are going to have billionaires involved, and I would like to see much greater fan control, it would be a good start if those people cared a flying flamingo about the sport of football. The problem, I'm afraid, that Arsenal with Stan Kroenke, whose temerity, whose audacity, whose cheek, whose sheer chutzpah, whose belief, is that he doesn't know one end of a football pitch from another. The guy's based in the United States.
He's never boring, is he, John Burko? You've got to give him that.
Stan Kroenke, get out of our club. Let's have the club back for the fans.
Oh, he's in bed.
Stood up to these companies. Hugely admire Jurgen Klopp and Ian Wright and Gary Neville and the rest. They've led. The fans have put up a terrific protest, and this time, this protest must persist until it prevails. As Robert said, government does have power, and wouldn't it be a good thing if this time round we use that power for the benefit of the public as a whole?
football is something we talked about for a long time. It's called a lot of my own house. But our time is up. Ron, I can see you were desperate to get in, so forgive me, we're out of time. I can see your hands waving there. Listen, thank you very much. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining us down the line. To our cutie pictures, thank you very much. Good to see you all again, and the two new faces. And of course, thank you for watching. See you next time.
Yeah, pretty drab episode, that one. Can't believe they didn't mention Scottish independence. Oh, I love it. They're having a fight in the studio as they go off air. One or two feisty moments. Tomorrow. Wow. Now we've got a royal wedding special, believe it or not, folks. So get your complaints into the BBC. for more propaganda. Yeah, I thought that was a good point by the guy near the end. How it's because football is seen as the nation's game and a game of the people. It's an easy political target to latch onto and try and make an issue of. But to actually do something about the state of the NHS and like human rights issues like Me Too and what have you, that seems beyond the government. They'd much rather take the easy opportunity to be popular by apparently tackling the football issue. If they are really tackling it, that remains to be seen. Okay, so we can see what's on the radio. Any more questions? I'll probably round up quite soon. Oh, Becca, have you been watching the new Summer of Sam documentary? Or Anthony? Okay. You should watch it. I've watched the first two. They got a bit of election coverage on the radio, I think, but it's still early, of course. Polls are only just closing. I think it's fair to say the results in Scotland and Wales are more interesting than the results in England. I think that they would have a bigger impact, really.
Technically, you're correct, Johnny. Yeah, in fact, of course, that was the gateway for Kaliningrad. This is this Russian enclave, a little fragment of the world's biggest country, where England, you might remember, I think lost 1-0 to Belgium in the group stage. Lots of fans were travelling through. It's only a couple of hours to the Russian border. And goodness me, Gdansk would really know how to host England.
Okay. I'll head off. Thanks, guys, for dropping by, and I'll probably see you over the weekend at some point. Take care. Good luck with the study, Becca. See you later.
Restaurants. I'm not sure what kind of treats are like,